I do. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our live stream for this evening. If you're listening to the podcast replay, we'll have to fill in the gaps here. We've got some four-legged friendly friends are photobombing the live stream, which is always fun. So, anyway, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Tonight we are doing our webinar called Ultramarathon Crewing 101, and we are thrilled to have our friends from Chaos Crewing on the horn. We got Brittany and Ashley. So thank you, ladies, for joining us tonight.
Hello.
Hi, thank you so much for having us. I'm
Awesome.
really excited.
Yeah, so we gave folks the option to register ahead of time for this free webinar, and then they had the opportunity to ask questions. So we've got a list of those questions that we're going to work through. But if you are watching live, feel free to drop some comments. I'll be able to see them, and I can share them with the Chaos Crewing crew. But before we jump into the questions, how about y'all do a little background on what Chaos Crewing is and who you are, and then we can jump into the questions for this evening.
Sure. I'm Ashley, and Chaos Crewing is just Brittany and I, small business. We provide crewing service for athletes, endurance athletes at different types of events. So we've crewed for runners, and we've also crewed for hikers. We've crewed for cyclists. So we've kind of crewed in a lot of different environments and at a lot of different distances. But we also have a free network where we try to connect people and find crew for people. So if you're looking to run a race and you want crew, we can try to help reach out to all the people we know and through our free network to try to help connect you with, crew, pacers, any race support you might need.
And I'm Brittany Cother. I'm Ashley's partner, and Ashley and I both love crewing. We've done it for many years at this point. We're both runners ourselves too. So we've got info and knowledge into the running space as well as crewing. And crewing is both of our passions. By day, my real daytime job is a veterinarian, but I would prefer crewing.
Yes. I'm glad that you mentioned you both are runners as well, because that's an important detail. And also mentioned too that you have crewed from, 50Ks all the way up to 300 plus, right? Is that the longest is the speed? No, 400? The speed project?
The speed project was 346, but we did crew Race Across America. Brittany and I crewed that together, and that was 3,000.
That's right. So, yeah. That's right. And Brittany just wrapped up crewing the Appalachian Trail.
So we got to 1,800 miles.
Yes.
35 days.
It's a lot. It's a lot of crewing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So they are very, very well experienced, and they both are going to be at the Wild Goose Trail Festival in September, which is the 19th, 20th, and 21st. And this year we are adding in some awesome programming on Friday afternoon. So they are going to be leading a live panel where we'll be talking about crewing and pacing. So great opportunity to ask questions, whether you're a participant or you're a spectator crew that's hanging out. Ask away all the questions that you want, both tonight and at the Wild Goose. So let's hop in. These are not in any particular order. They're just how they came in on the registration. So we'll throw them up on the screen. The first question is, are runners often looking for crew members who they don't know?
Yes, all the time. And it may not be like, oh, I want a crew who I don't know to help me in this, but sometimes it is. Oftentimes it's people looking for crew and their family or friends can't help them, but they do want a crew for a certain event. So they often will look for anyone who lives locally or, find a person who's willing to travel. So it works out in many different ways. Ashley and I will help try and connect people that we know through our networks. We have a Slack network where someone might post, hey, I'm doing a 24-hour event in New Jersey. Would love to have crew. So we do find that many crews and runners often don't know each other, but it can turn out to be a super awesome relationship long term. And I'll say I didn't know, John when I crewed him for the AT. So that just happened to work out where we didn't know each other, and it worked well.
Yeah, and I'll just add that if you are going to pair up with people you don't know, just get to know them beforehand. Try to meet with them. We always do Zoom calls with people when we crew for new folks or people that we haven't ever crewed for. So we try to get to know them. We try to get to know why they love the sport or why they hate the sport, and what their challenges are, but also really what their goals are, and then try to get a feel for personality. And if it's not a right fit as a runner, it's always okay to just say, hey, I really greatly appreciate this, but I don't know if this is the right fit for me. I think I'm going to go a different direction. So I think just keep that in mind, that like it's like crewing and growing the sport through engaging more people that way is more about just like making authentic connections and not forcing things that shouldn't happen. So
Totally awesome, and I'm sure you've seen it because I've seen it on the race scene as well. That some people just prefer to go solo, and that's totally cool. Like not everybody needs or wants a crew, and part of the focus tonight is the Wild Goose Trail Festival. So just to plug that you don't have to have a crew at Wild Goose. For one, these ladies are going to be here if you need help. We have an amazing volunteer dream team who will also be on hand, ready to hop in. But just to note that, don't feel pressure if you're thinking like, oh, I'm not going to be able to finish because I don't have a crew. You'll have a lot of help at that event.
yeah, go a little early and meet people, or go to some of the pre-race events and try to mingle. Come say hi to me, and I got your back.
Yes, excellent. All right, we'll hop on to the next question that came in is, what are the types of things crews should know what to do? So maybe like the role of crew, what is happening when you're crewing, what's going on?
Brittany, or
So crews can do a number of things. One, from just being support to, cheering somebody on, being a ride to the start, pick up from the finish, or it can be anywhere from being hands-on, taking a runner's socks and shoes off, making sure they're getting food in, things like that. So when we talk about what crew should know, I often start with like what the runner's goals are. So it does come hand in hand where you're working with a relationship with your runner. And this can kind of go with volunteering too. So like in the big scheme of things, finishing a race. But if you're working one-on-one with an athlete, it's understanding what their goals are, if they are going for a speed record, if this is their first time doing an ultra and their goal is just to finish. And then work on understanding and building that relationship and knowing, okay, what kind of food do they like? Have they had any ailments in the past? If they know injuries in the past, you don't need to be a medical person. You don't need to be doing medicine out there. That's illegal. But it can be helpful to try and talk with your athlete through certain things that they're feeling, understand what has worked in the past for them. Ashley, if you want to add on too.
Yeah, I love everything you said. So like understanding like all of their like likes and dislikes, kind of the basic stuff that you think about. But I also think it's great to know like the warning signs of like dehydration, or like the if the questions that you ask when they come into the aid station, just to make sure they're actually taking care of themselves out there on the trail. So like how are your feet feeling? Do you have any blisters? If there's blisters, like, how close are we to the end? Is it something that you want to like open up that can of worms, or is it something that, it's going to be up to the athlete, but just when they come in, knowing to ask them how their feet are doing, taking their pack from them when they come in, and knowing where everything in their pack goes, if you're going to refill their pack, things like that. So just being thoughtful and intentional, but also you don't have to know all of that. Like, you can very much crew and learn as you go. And I do recommend just like doing it for an athlete that trusts you, and that you're gonna, that they're gonna be okay with you kind of calling the shots if you need to make a decision. But I think in general, like, the most important thing, aside from getting to know your athlete, is to like have the willingness and the excitement to do it. Like, you don't want to just go in and try to address all these issues that they are having, or not issues, like just being a cheerleader, if you're going into that with like kind of like feeling dragged into it. So just willingness to do it is probably the most important thing.
And know it's it's a service in a way of what crews are giving for their athletes is time, energy, emotion. So trying to be conscientious of like positivity, and really the best place to start, I think, is actually volunteering at any one of these events, whatever distance it is, even, sanctioned marathons versus a trail fest. I mean, you can learn so much just watching people and what they ask for. And you may not have the answer, but you're going to do the best you can to help someone in the moment.
Love that. Ashley, I love the point you brought up about if you can learn how your athlete's pack is arranged, that could be very helpful. I'm thinking about, too, the idea, if, say, you're crewing an event that involves a lot of driving and you're crewing out of your vehicle, it's definitely helpful. I think you both would agree, to know where everything is in the car, because it's easy for the car to turn into a hot mess very quickly. So, yeah. And I think a lot of that too can come back to the runner with just being organized ahead of time. It's amazing if you can label as many things as possible, because crew is going to be really fatigued as well, especially if it's like a long overnight event or multi-day event.
Mm.
Yeah, so crew's taking care, like, know what you need to take care of yourself as well. Ashley and I have learned this about each other, just the more time we spend together. But like, I definitely need sleep, and I get very hungry. So just know what you need to take care of yourself. You need to drink fluid and hydrate, and take care of yourself so you can best support your athlete.
Awesome. All right. The next question is a little bit similar, but I'm going to distinguish it a bit. So the question is, I'm running my first 50 miler. I'm going to be crewed by my wife. What is the most essential piece of information that may help our partnership come race day? So let's try to focus on this one for the specific dynamic of family crewing family. And I will give a plug. Our last podcast episode is live on all the platforms, where we got to chat with Ryan and Alex Thorpe, who are married and they crew each other. And there was so much good information in that, just talking about the family dynamics, because it is very different, I think, between friends crewing friends and then spouses or partners or mom, dad, whatever the dynamic is. So do you guys want to touch on this? I'm sure you've had plenty of observations out in the field, so to speak.
Yeah, I've been crewing for my husband for 14 years now, and I've crewed almost all of his races. I would say all of the races over 100 miles I've crewed. So I've crewed many, many multi-day events. And it is it does take a lot of intentionality and thoughtfulness. And I think the biggest piece of advice that I would give, I don't think like one piece of information is going to like be as important as like just having really great communication before the race. I think the more that we talk about, when I'm crewing for my husband, the more that we talk about the race beforehand, and you get tired of talking about races in my house because we talk about running all the time. But in this case, like, I really highly recommend, if your wife is going to be crewing you and she's going to be your crew chief, that, she, one, like, knows what she's doing. Like, she knows how to crew. I think it's going to alleviate a lot of tension for you. 50 miles is not going to be, I think it'll be a really great like first kind of test to do crewing with your wife, because it's not like you're not going into many days, but you can kind of like feel like it's tough. 50 miles is tough. So you're going to have like not just the communication side, but like knowing exactly kind of what you want at each checkpoint, so you don't spend too much time just talking through it at the aid station. Pretty much the same way that I would approach any of our clients at Chaos, or any of our athletes that we crew for, is the same approach I'll have with my husband. I think there is this level of, I have seen partners who worry a lot. You have so much concern when they're not doing well and they're not feeling well, and you almost, at least it's happened with me, that I have taken on this kind of feeling of like, oh, I failed as crew because I haven't executed and he's suffering, or that you feel bad that you can't take that suffering away. And it doesn't matter like how you communicate about that in the moment. Like you have to realize that the moment's not going to be like, you're not always going to communicate the best in the moment, but you have to have that understanding going into it. So there are times where there's like tension between my husband and I, or like I'm so overwhelmed and with worry about him that I have to step away and maybe let somebody else come in and like analyze the situation and like make sure he's okay. But hopefully in 50 miles, you're not going to have like a situation where the wheels are just completely falling off. But if they are, just grab someone to help you and bring them over. It really helps, I think, to have a third person whenever you're crewing for your partner.
And if like when I've crewed my fiance, you might not always have the luxury of having a third person, but again, like talking beforehand and setting your goals, like knowing what you want to accomplish. And I would do multiple goals, like an ABC goal type situation of like, if it's for speed, if, your whatever you're working towards, and have your wife understand that. And I think for you as a runner, you have to be gracious and grateful and patient with your wife, and vice versa. Like your wife should know, like in an event where you are pushing your limits, that you may not be the sweetest or nicest. So having that mutual respect and understanding beforehand, I think, is super important. And then it's hard to put like the most essential piece of information. I think that communication part beforehand is super important. And then making sure your wife knows about what could motivate you. Is it saying like, baby, you're doing great over and over? Because that would not motivate me. Or is it like, get up, get out, get moving, like tough love type of situation?
Awesome. Great responses there. We're going to bounce to the land of pacing with this next question. Somebody asked, what is the role of a pacer? I love this question. It'll be a fun one to explore.
I love being a pacer. It's one of my favorite things. And the role of a pacer can be defined many different ways. For some people, it's literally just being a companion out there, someone to share miles with, take your mind off of things, talk about random things, play random music. Like I'll have my pacers with me. I kind of directed and led my pace on my own, but I would have, like, if Cole was pacing me, like he would do everything in his power to make me laugh, especially in the wee hours of the night. But some pacers truly are out there to run a step in front of their athlete or bike or whatever, and like truly have them pace and keep up on a certain, minute per mile type situation. I would say in general, for most of the people that we have worked with, it's having that companion to keep moving and to keep going forward, and just someone, especially in the middle of the night, or just someone to share something with.
I guess I'll add to that. I've been a pacer one time, and it was in Las Vegas, and it was because we were at the end of 346 miles, and he was going slow enough that I could keep up. But he couldn't see the street line. Like he couldn't just run in a straight line, and he was running on busy streets. there was like light, there was too much light coming and messing with his vision. So I ran out and I kind of guided him back. So sometimes it's like that you're in like overnight or in a situation where you just need someone who's fresh to be able to like be your eyes. And then some people have pacers because they have a medical need to have somebody out there with them and keeping to help them out. So I think, and by medical need, I mean something that's been prior approved and they know what they're doing. If you have a medical issue in the middle of the race, go see the med tent. But I do think like having a pacer for there are certain reasons where you'd want to just have like a person with you to just make sure that you are safe.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because definitely an important factor is the safety. I mean, with these races, some of these multi-day events, especially when sleep deprivation comes into play, pacers can really help out a runner. If there's perhaps some loopy hallucinations happening or easy to get turned around. If you went down for a quick dirt nap and you're 2 days in, I've heard so many stories of people who've gotten up and gone the wrong way simply because, they didn't have somebody with them or whatnot. So definitely safety is a big thing. That being said, I did want to bring up, and hopefully if you're signed up for the Goose, you already know this because you've been reading all of our emails and information that's online. But one of the big changes we made this year is that we're allowing pacers for runners and hikers who are on the course at sunset and beyond. We've actually made that changes for all of our events. So if you're at a Sasquatch race, you're on the trails. After the sun goes down, you're allowed to have a pacer with you. So that was big feedback we got last year. There's a lot of wildlife at Wawayanda State Park. So understandably, there's fears going out after dark, especially if you're not from northern New Jersey, New York, and have that experience. So, we talked as a team. We thought, well, why not allow pacers at sunset? It's, I think it's great. If it'll ease people's fears to have a pacer out there, we're all about that. So you can have a pacer. We ask that you pre-register them. One person out at a time. You can switch pacers in between loops. And then if you're an athlete who's 60 years of age or older, or an AWD, athlete with disability, you can have a pacer at any time at any of our races. So we just need to know about it. And we don't charge for pacers. You just got to pre-register them ahead of time. Okay, this next question was fun. I love the way this person worded it. Okay, so who finds who in this situation? Does the crazy runner find the crew, or does the crazy crew find the runner?
It's the crew. I've seen so many people just be like, "Oh my gosh, you need someone to run with you to the next aid station. Can anybody give me a ride back to my car whenever I get there?" And just jump in. I think it's the crazy crew that look for runners in need, little does that need to be.
Again, it could go both ways. A lot of times if an athlete or runner or cyclist is, often these races can be have a financial impact for sure. If they're setting up for a 200 plus mile race, that's a lot of time off and a big endeavor. So runners will try and get crew and pacers with enough time to get things lined out and smoothed out. But again, I mean, it goes both ways. Ashley's totally right, because me and Ashley are like, who needs help? What are you guys doing?
Yeah, I think it's a huge goal of mine with Chaos and just connecting with the race directors like Kim to really just grow the number of people who want to crew and not limit it just to runners, because I think safety is great safety is like a principal reason to have great crew, but I think it just makes the sport more accessible for people. And I also think it has an inclusivity to it. I mean, there's something to be said about having like a team kind of feel to it. I personally could go down, and I've done this with Kim before, but kind of down the rabbit hole of the emotional side of participating as crew. So yeah, I think I think you should, if you want to have an experience with people that is kind of squarely just between you, that that will blow your mind, like sign up for 200 and put together a crew and work with them for months on how to execute so that, like Brittany said, you can make it to the finish line. The feeling afterward for everybody on your team is just like, it's epic. So anyway, that's my crazy crew answer.
Love that. The trail magic. I love it. I love
Yes.
it. That's I love at the finish line, especially a race like Wild Goose, where you get to see people cross, and it's an accessible course. So crew often will go out, maybe a half mile and run in the final stretch with their runner or hiker, and I just love that. It gives you goosebumps. The emotions come up just watching it, and I love seeing. We've had often this year a lot of parents crewing their kids, and when I say kids, they're adult children. But it's so fun. I love seeing that. Like, and I've talked to them. A lot of times, it's the athlete has been involved in organized sports their whole lives, and the parents are very involved in that. And now it's kind of like, okay, they've moved on to the next thing, and the parents are still involved and supporting their kids. So I just love that, and echo what you both just said. Okay, let's flip to the opposite side of some of these questions. So, are there any major don'ts for crewing? So, things that you would advise against, perhaps you've seen out there, mistakes that have been made, either like before the race, during the race. What have you seen? How can we learn from you all?
Don't assume that your runner is going to tell you everything to do, and do not assume that they know how to get to the start line. We made it to the start line of Vermont 100 by 5 minutes before the start. So make sure that you know, as crew, if you're the driver or if you're going to be there, you better just know where it's at. But don't. I think I had a couple instant thoughts here. So don't forget to communicate, but also don't forget to take care of yourself as crew. Don't take everything personally, and then don't tell your runner things that they wouldn't want to hear. And don't be like patronizing, don't be annoying. Just like try not to be annoying to your runner. And that will get you really far. I'm sure there's more like better answers. But.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, don't be a jerk. Again, there could be tensions that are high, and you are there with and for an athlete and a goal, and things might not be going either of your ways, but just try and be patient and always kind and thoughtful the best you can be. And I would say, don't get flustered. Like, shit happens, and you may miss an aid station, and the runner is going to figure it out. We've got lovely volunteers that are at all these races, and Kim's got a dream team of volunteers. So if your crew popped a tire or just simply got lost, like, that stuff happens. So for crews, like, don't sweat it.
And you made me think of something while you were saying that, which is, don't break the race rules. Like,
Oh, yeah.
just follow the rules. Don't make aid stations where there aren't aid stations. Don't break the race rules. And don't block the bathrooms before the race while runners are trying to use them right before the race starts.
These are so good. You guys you've seen it all, I'm sure. One popped into my mind. This is one where I've seen it. Is as a crew, sometimes especially if you're close friends with your runner, and something happens while you're crewing, like a crazy story, like maybe you popped your tire, right? And your instinct is just like, the next time you see your runner, you're going to tell them all about it. And it's not oftentimes helpful to bring your stress, even if you're saying it in fun and you're excited to tell your runner. Your runner is so focused on, their one job is to just move forward. They have this big goal they've been working towards for months and months and months, and then I guess it could be called a distraction, right? If you're bringing in these other things that are happening, or maybe you saw something on social media and you just can't wait to tell your runner at the next aid station. It's just save it for after the race, when the race is over and you guys can kick back and swap stories.
Yeah, that's a
Mhm.
good point.
Yeah, that really, yeah, I'm thinking about a few times that I've had where it could have gone really bad if I would have told Cole what happened
Yes.
before the race was over. You made me think of something. Oh, and now I lost it. I talked too much, but sorry.
All right. If it pops back in, interrupt me and we'll
Okay.
throw it in there. Um, okay.
Oh,
Oh,
if
yeah.
your runner is competitive, you do not have to tell them what place they're in,
Oh,
especially if they're in like the top 3 or 4, unless they specifically ask you. You do not have to volunteer how far behind they are from that guy in front of them.
that is a great point. And again, it's like you're bringing in these distractions that might not help your person accomplish the goals they want to. Um, okay, so this one, we'll have to interpret it a little. It was worded a little oddly, but how to prepare for my first ever long distance trail running from half marathon. So I'm assuming the person is saying the longest they've done is a half marathon, and now they're making the jump to something longer. I'm not sure what that is specifically. We'll just call it an ultra marathon. So, um, any advice that you ladies might have for people attempting their first ultra marathon?
Be patient in your build to that distance, and but also train for that distance. I know a lot of people will say they like just jumped into, a 50K and did it easily. I think that puts you at a more prone to being injured in those instances. So, um, transparently, like I've always had a coach. I was on a Division 1 college team, and so I've always kept that regimen for me. And so I've had someone guide me during that. But I've had surgeries and whatnot, and coming back from zero to nothing, running in particular, and just being patient and kind to your body through that process of like adding more distance. Um, and then also get out on trails. Like it's very different from running on road to trail. Um, yeah, so I don't know if the half marathon was on road or was it on a trail. I think just getting more time out there, um, getting your ankles used to rocking and rolling.
Yeah, and my advice would be to try a few things before you run the race. Like try some different food or nutrition products while you're running, test out what you're going to do during the event so that you don't have like a sour stomach or electrolytes tend to be a big thing for ultra runners. Not just 10, it's like a huge thing for ultra runners. I think it should be important, just as important to any distance, but I feel from my own, just anecdotally, I feel like ultra runners like focus more because they're out there for so long. They focus a lot on their hydration. So like doing a simulation long run where maybe like try to I won't tell you a distance to get to because every training plan is different, but try to get to a longer distance than that and test out, like how much are you sweating? Is your sweat really salty? Make sure that you're taking in the right amount of electrolytes for how much you might be losing. There are sweat tests, but I don't think you need to go that crazy to run an ultra. But yes, get to know your body in ways that you probably wouldn't get to know it in the shorter distance. And then also train with a race pack that is a simulation of what you're going to run it with on race day. And I would even say like all of your clothing, like everything, make sure that anything you're going to run on race day is broken in, that you're kind of like not going to end up just chafing in an area that is just going to ruin your first ultra. So
Or know where you chafe and put body
yeah,
glide
yeah,
all over it.
yeah,
Awesome. Yeah, that was something I heard a lot in the 100+ mile distances. Is runners, when they are thinking about how the race went, a comment I hear often is like, my pack was so heavy, I wasn't used to the weight. So that goes to what y'all were just saying is, training with all the gear that you're going to have in your pack, so your body can get used to what that feels like, and it's not like a shock
Mhm.
yeah.
on race day.
And
Um,
bring an extra pair of shoes. your feet might just get so tired that you need to change your shoes or something, or you could just step in mud and you just bring an extra pair of shoes
And
to the
socks.
race.
And
And
socks.
socks.
We just had a great question come in on the Facebook live stream from Shauna Peterson. How do you determine if your runner is just giving up and using excuses, or if there's a real medical reason to pull them? This is an excellent, excellent question.
This is so challenging, even for us who feel like we've been doing this for a while. To me, it's that communication piece beforehand. And it's understanding like what the runner is willing to go through. So for my first 100 miler last year, I was willing to break myself, and I did. Um, would I do that again? Probably not, because it was a long recovery, but like I was so determined to finish. And there are, especially at the Wild Goose, you're going to have a great time to get your run in and do it your way and your speed and have fun with it as well. Um, and then also there's a point of trying to give a little tough love and see what's pushed back on. Some people may have a real medical reason, and then there's also kind of the mental side of it. And if someone just wakes up and they are not having a good day and they truly are, resisting to everything you've tried coming up with, or if you go through like a backup plan of like, okay, if this happens, we've tried this, or talk through, these scenarios, and your athlete is really just resistant and being super negative, it's a fine line, especially if you don't know the person well, of like pushing them too much versus, allowing them to DNF at that point in time. So I think the communication beforehand is super important. And then you as crew, I think you can be tough and can push the runner a little bit. Then that's that give and take of like, always understand there's a mutual respect, but like you're here for this goal and we're going to get you there, unless you are like broken in half, or if you're, peeing blood, then those are the reasons to be out. So having an understanding of that, and then just as crew of like pushing, I would say push the boundaries a little bit from what I would what I would do.
Yeah, I think I love everything that you just said, because communication is so important. And we talk about this a lot with the athletes that we work with. We go over like a contingency plan for every kind of thing, that like buckets of things that we think a lot of people go through, like tummy distress, extremely tired, all kinds of things. And then morale plays into that, because sometimes morale can be turned around from like just eating something different, or brushing your teeth, or taking a 15-minute power nap, or 2-hour nap if you have the time for it, which in a lot of cases you do. But if there's any question that it might be a real medical issue, you should go to the med tent and get checked out. They'll tell you, usually they'll say, we're not going to diagnose you, but this is kind of what could be going on. My advice would be like, we're going to wrap it, or we're going to tape it, and you can try to keep going. If it does X, Y, and Z, you need to completely stop. I mean, every med person is going to be different, but they're going to at least give you kind of like a baseline of like how serious this could be. And you, as the athlete, need to make a decision. And as a crew, like, you need to support that decision. But if the athlete is still on the fence after that, like we had an issue at Cocodona a couple of years ago where Cole, my husband, was having a hamstring issue, and we couldn't tell if it was really just him like really not feeling it, or if it was really a hamstring issue that we needed to like cut him off from potentially like really ruining his hamstring. We tried for like 3 hours we went to the med tent, they taped him up. We got him in the car, we got him warmed up, and we tried for like 3 hours after feeding him, and we tried everything, and his morale just wasn't up. He wasn't having it. He wasn't going to risk hurting his hamstring. And so that was a good time for him to pull the plug. And that's going to happen. And it's a shame whenever you're the crew. I think preparing yourself mentally for when that does happen, or if that does happen, I think is really important as crew. But at the same time, we're there to support the athlete in that instance. And You do not want to, if you're going to drag through a problem, you don't want it to end up being something where everything just blows up. So if you communicate ahead of time and you listen to medical advice from professionals, then you should be able to make like a really good, like reasonable decision.
Totally. I love the quote from the philosopher Matthew Klein, who's one of our Sasquatchers. He always says, "Don't make a permanent decision for a temporary problem." So, and this is outside of a medical issue, but a lot of times things that come up in ultras is something that you can, excuse me, something that you can work through.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where crew can be a great help is, when you get, as a runner, you can get stuck in your head on something and you just lose perspective and you think like, this is going to end the race. And where a lot of times it can be problem solved with other brains that are working a little bit better than yours. The other thing I'll mention with Wild Goose specifically, and I saw this happen. It was actually one of our volunteers who did a little Jedi mind trick on one of the runners. But because it's a looped race, a great strategy to use. And again, this is not if your runner's ankle is falling off, you're not doing this. But if it's more of like a morale thing, motivation, and you're not sure, like you're thinking, I think they're going to be okay. Something you can use is like is telling them, hey, why don't you go do one more loop? Just go do a loop. You come back, we'll talk about it again. And a lot of times I would see at Wild Goose is maybe their runner was just alone for a long time. And then the next loop that their crew convinced them to go out on, they met up with somebody else. And then, it's the distraction piece that kind of helps you work through some of those issues. So that's something that I see a lot at Goose, and I would say as crew, that's one strategy you can use is just try to get your runner to go out and just say just go do one loop. We'll talk when you get back. Um, Manipulation isn't, might not be the best word, but there is a little bit of that Jedi mind tricks that can be useful with crewing.
And yeah, I've seen people come back from the dead so many times, which is
Yeah.
like so cool.
Yeah. We've seen like one of our clients has come back from the dead from like really bad. And we were like, I the pep talk he was giving himself when he was leaving that aid station was wild to me because
Yeah.
he just was like, and I think that is part of it too. Like beforehand, like it's for a seasoned runner, you're probably going to know like the problems that you can encounter out there. But even for like someone who's not a seasoned ultra runner, maybe this is your first ultra, and you do have crew, it's really great when your crew, like when you show up to the aid station and your crew like knows what you need and you've already talked about it, and when they're talking you through the problem or you're trying to troubleshoot, like they have like an answer already. They have an option. They have options. So like talk about all the options. Like what are the options if I just can't hold down sandwiches anymore or whatever. Anyway, communication.
Totally. And one other thing I'll add, because I've seen it at races, is don't give your runner an out by asking like, do you want to drop? We can end this because
That's great.
like it's just human nature. You want your suffering to end when you're out there. And again, this is reiterating, this is not a situation like if your ankle is broken, you are going to encourage your runner to drop. But yeah, that's something where I've seen it, and I just watch and think, oh man, I think they could have kept going if crew didn't even mention, like, not even giving them the option to think
Yeah.
about that. So I'm going to throw a couple questions at you, ladies. You didn't see this, but these are in your wheelhouse, so it'll be easy to answer. But I'm thinking more on kind of like the nuts and bolts logistics of crewing. This question, I think, needs to be talked about more. So, what's the best way to plan for night shifts and sleep breaks for the crew? How would you say what's best tips for handling sleep deprivation that inevitably happens for crew members?
Get rid of your FOMO. I have a problem where I don't want to miss anything. Like I want to be part of it and then I get really cranky and it's not a good time for anybody. So talk with, like, if you are a sole crew and you're doing a point to point event, I would say, like, what I would do is I would get to the crew spot early, and that's following the race rules of, like, you don't want to take someone else's spot, but also you have to nag. That's another conversation. Anyways, I would get to the crew spot early, and then I can sleep pretty well in the back of a car, with a little pad. So if it's somewhere that you can drive and bring your own stuff, I bring like a little sleeping pad, and you can also travel with a blow up one. So I can sleep easily in the back of the car, and I'll set a timer of trying to calculate like a pace someone is running or cycling, and then set a timer to either check the tracker or go up and, kind of be aware. So in that instance, you're getting some sleep. It's not going to be awesome sleep, but it's not going to be nothing. On nice nights, I've sat out in like a infinity chair, with blankets, and fell asleep that way. Also setting an alarm, but like hearing people cheering and coming up would wake me up periodically. And then if you have another person or multiple people, it would be divvying up shifts and trying to identify your strengths. So, like, when Ashley and I are together, I tend to do a little bit more pacing. So, um, trying to like work around that where Ashley can get some sleep. And then she's on for when I'm pacing, and vice versa.
Yeah. There's so many different variables, but if we're going to just cover like blanket things you can think about, I think it's really important that you kind of know how to pace, right? Or you know how to calculate estimated pace for your athletes. So you know when they're going to come in. You can be awake by the time they come in if you're sleeping before they arrive. Um, and then coordinating your sleep with your co-crew. So if you have other people crewing with you, if you're by yourself and you're trying to like manage sleep, and then you have to drive to another aid station and you're groggy because it's the middle of the night, I do think it's really good to maybe take that break earlier, like during the day, so that you could potentially like kind of rack up on a little bit of rest before you go into the nighttime section. Um, I do think that one thing that's underplayed with like crewing overnight and stuff is like making sure that you're taking care of your electrolytes and water. I see a lot of crew get low electrolytes, and it causes them headaches. It causes them to just like, because you're going oscillating between sleeping at odd hours and then running around taking care of your athlete. So the most you can do for yourself in that moment is to like not eat just junk food, because, and this is not judgmental at all in terms of people's eating habits, but anything that you can eat that is going to make you feel good, that you know feels good and it doesn't make you sleepy or tired afterward, that would be something to have on hand. I tend to snack a lot and not eat whole meals whenever I'm out there, because I just get so full and tired whenever I eat a whole meal. So I just break up lots of snacks throughout the time that I'm doing it. I save caffeine for like strategic times instead of just starting it off at the very beginning of the first day if you're doing a multi-day event, because the caffeine stops losing its effect after a couple of days, and then you just get kind of out of it. But just making sure that you're really safe about like getting from point A to point B, in the car. And then, yeah, if you're planning for pacers, sometimes I've been to like multi-day events where you don't get really very much of a break in between. So like Brittany said, having a good setup, even if it's like you have to have headphones, you have to have something over your eyes, something that can help you like actually fall asleep, is really really important. I can sleep anywhere. So like I can, and I snore so nobody can sleep around me. So that's another thing. Like if you are the one who snores, you do not want to be the one who sleeps whenever other people are sleeping. You want to be the one that stays awake when everyone else is sleeping.
The most selfless thing you can do.
It really is. I have tried so hard with, if it's just me and Brittany, it's really hard because we have one vehicle. And so we have tried to sleep at the same time. And sometimes I can't keep my eyes open and I'm so tired and I fall asleep and I wake her up with my snoring. So
But the loop earplugs are
yeah,
really good.
a plug for the loop earplugs. We need to do like a sponsorship or partnership with them. We tell everybody about those.
They do work well. I've seen them.
Yes,
Yeah.
very well, and they're comfortable. I'm like really sensitive about what's in my ears, and they are. I don't notice them. I've had like 5 people snoring in an RV when we were doing Race Across America. Didn't hear anything, but I can still wake up to my alarm. Yeah.
That's quite the plug right there.
Yes.
No pun intended. All right, I'm gonna ask. This is probably the last crewing specific question. Then we had a couple Wild Goose questions that came in. Again, I'm throwing this at you, but I think it'd be cool to talk about strategies and ways. Like, how do you keep track of cutoffs, loop counts, or time on the course? And I know the answer is not in your head. There should be some other strategy. So, what are some ways that works well for you? I know, and don't be shy. I know you guys have great resources for this. So, give a plug for the way you do things.
Ashley, you're a data person.
Sure. If you're doing a point to point, it never hurts to have a spreadsheet. If you don't feel comfortable using spreadsheets, you can definitely create a table like on a Word document or something like that. But we typically, when people come to us and ask us to crew, they kind of have already made their own spreadsheet. Like athletes really love doing this, where they can like test out their pace. But we will create a spreadsheet that based on the athletes' ABC goals. And so we ask them ahead of time, like where they're at, or what time they want to finish, or how many miles they want to complete in that time frame. And then we kind of back into like a pacing schedule, so we can kind of keep track of where they're going. But also, it's a checklist for every time they come through, and then we write in the time that they actually came through. We do that for people who really want to track exactly like and need like, especially on a looped course. We've seen people running looped courses that are on the track. So we've been to a lot of the ones in New Jersey that are on like track loop courses, or like 1.4 miles. So how do you know where mile they're at? Those races typically have a good like area that's broadcasting kind of what loop each person's on, or it'll be like on a website where you can like click on the tracker and see when they came through based on a timing chip that goes across. But yeah, we do definitely keep track of the cutoffs for each one, making sure that we know the athlete's going to be able to realistically get between that aid station and the next checkpoint before they try to leave the checkpoint. And at that time, like if you're chasing cutoffs, it's likely that the aid stations are also going to be very much making sure that you're in a position to continue on the next leg. But it's good to like have just a listing. I just print out a list, and this is kind of silly, but you can always take it a step farther and get it laminated so that the ink doesn't wash off of it if it gets wet, but keep it dry. And then time on course, again, it really is about multiplying. Time on course, you have like the whole length of time, but like between legs, you should just be tracking when they came in and when they come into the next leg. That's a good way to like kind of establish pace. If you want to get really technical, we use pacing software. So I personally love Ultra Pacer. It works pretty well. If you plug in the Corsair, it can give you an adjusted pace, and then you can put in all kinds of manipulations based on the personalized parameters or settings or whatever you want for the athlete. Like, for instance, like if they know that they want to spend XYZ amount of minutes at each aid station, you can manually plug that in and adjust for time there. They have a simple way to use it that's kind of just their standard presets, and then you can edit it, so it can get really fun actually. I personally really love that. And then comparing, where you're at with those ABC goals. So you're going to have a different pace or different time that they might come in for each ABC goal, and you can kind of see over time if they're on track. It's not always perfect. You're not always going to necessarily be able to predict pace, but you can get kind of in a ballpark of whether someone's walking or if they're moving at a little bit faster. Um, I don't know if Wild Goose or a looped course is really the best setting for this, but there's also some great devices out there where you can track people on your own. So I've actually been thinking about getting one of those where I can put it on whatever athlete I'm crewing for. They have like the Garmin ones. Anyway, there's a bunch of different like personal trackers that you can look into.
I will say I'm not as organized as Ashley, but I always like print out the runner manual, and that will have like your cutoffs. Um, and then I'll keep calculating paces and like play with it and like just jot things down. That's how my brain works. I really like Ashley's because it's really nice and organized. But there are a couple different ways to do it. So it depends on like what style you like.
Yeah. In the moment, realistically, Brittany's a lot better at tracking, and I'm better at just doing math in my head. Like I've already come up, like I already know, I might look at the pace sheet to see like when I can expect someone or what's going on, but I kind of just can, you get to, when you crew a lot, you get to where you kind of know what pace they will likely come in within like 30-minute time frame. And I think you get, I think you get good at it the more you do it, honestly.
Yeah. Oh, all this is so good. I'll throw in something that I picked up from a runner. I crewed Jess Sameo at Western States just a couple of months ago, and something she did that we as a crew so appreciated. She was one of those runners who made her own spreadsheet, which was awesome. But something she did was with her, she had an A, B, C goal, and for each of the, she made two spreadsheets. One of them was the ABC goal that had those like increments with aid station was listed in time of day, and then the other spreadsheet was elapsed time with the race,
Right.
which was so great because all of the race material, like the aid station cutoffs and everything, that was listed with, I forget which one it was, but essentially it was like she provided what we needed in order to interpret the data, so to speak. But I thought that was super helpful and something that I'll start doing because it just helps your crew when they're trying to do ultra math. If you've got both formats already there, it's helpful for different scenarios.
Yeah, definitely. And also not just having, like, if you have a long race that's multiple days, you that time elapsed is good, the mileage accrual, but also like just putting Monday, like Monday versus
Yeah.
like 12 a.m. because you got to, which 12 a.m. is there, 12 p.m. is
Yes.
it?
Yes, that's a great point. It gets very confusing with ultra math. Okay, so we had two questions come in that were Wild Goose specific, so I'm going to hit them real quick and then we'll wrap up. So the first one, somebody asked, do we have to complete all three trails for the 100-mile runners? And I'm assuming that's referencing the three different loops that we have for Wild Goose, and the answer is yes. So every race distance at the Goose has a prescribed sequence. It's all listed online in our handbook, and you need to complete that sequence in the order that it's prescribed. It's not willy nilly of like, oh, I'll do this one now and that one later. It's going one after the other until you get the final mileage for that. And then this question came in. I'm running Wild Goose 100. Can one of my crew members run with me for a couple laps? And yes, we referenced this earlier in the evening. You can have a pacer, and it starts at sunset. So you guys are kicking off at 7 a.m. on Saturday, which means you can pick up your pacer once the sun goes down. You can have them for the rest of the time. So it does not matter what mile you're at when sunset hits, and it doesn't matter what distance you're a part of. So if you're out there, you're in the 50-mile on Saturday, and you get to sunset, you're still out there and you want a pacer, you can have a pacer with you. You just got to pre-register them. Okay, that is all the questions we've got, Ashley and Brittany. This was super fun. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us. Is there any parting words you want to leave us with? Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I'll just add that we really want to continue growing the space for crew and to connect people who might be able to crew, or even um, people who want to volunteer and pace for other people, or just help someone out who might be running a race in your area who doesn't isn't familiar with the area. If you are interested in that, or you know anyone who's interested in that, we can help you. From if you're brand new to crewing, or you want to get your friend involved with crewing, send them our way. We have the free network; it's on Slack, and but you can go to our website to learn more about that. And feel free to reach out to us anytime. hello@chaoscrewing.com, and then we also have Instagram at Chaos Crewing Co. And we are more than happy to try and help you. We have a free handbook that has resources for how, like soup to nuts, how to crew. So feel free to reach out to us for that.
Awesome. We did have one more question sneak in about Wild Goose. I'm going to answer that real quick. Bill wants to know, Wild Goose, if a runner is solo, can they have a bucket or some container to self resupply at the festival dedicated area? 100% yes. And this was one of the feedbacks we got in our post race survey from last year. Is we're going to provide an actual designated area for solo runners who are coming. We had a bunch of folks who were dropped off where they didn't have a vehicle, so they couldn't really use that as home base. So what it's probably going to be is just a big tarp near the finish line. So if you're a solo runner, you don't have the whole setup, you can drop your stuff there, and we're happy to have that designated space for you. I think that is it. I'm so excited that you both are coming to Wild Goose. It's going to be really just, it's going to be so nice. I mean, selfishly, I'm just so happy because the runners are really going to be spoiled now. I mean, they were being spoiled with their aid station, but now having you all on site, we've also are going to have Rachel Bambrick is bringing a tent for women in ultra running. I know you all know each other. And then our pelvic floor PT sponsor, Colleen Drehos, is going to be there. I know you guys all interacted at the Squat Chapel, and it was like magic having all that.
It was so awesome. I'm so excited about Wild Goose.
Is so badass. We're bringing the glitter station back because that was a hit. Even though I have issues with glitter, I'm getting past it because everybody likes it. We're gonna have that. So yeah, I'm so stoked. Our countdown is, we're getting almost to a month here. So we're at the 19th. Well, it's exactly a month right now. So
Yeah.
it's awesome. But thank you again, ladies, and thank you all for tuning in to this webinar. Appreciate y'all if you're watching the replay or listening to it on our podcast. As always, you can learn more about us by visiting sasquattrailrunning.com, and we're active on socials as well at Sasquatch Trail Running. So until we see you again.